I'll be buried in my grave before I become a slave, yeah. That is what I heard them say way back in the day. I'll be buried in my grave before I become a slave, yeah, yeah, yeah. But it seems like since that day, yeah, yeah, we have sorely changed. Eh, eh, See, I'll be buried in my grave before I become a slave, yeah, yeah. That is what I heard them say, way back in the day. I'll be buried in my grave before I become a slave, yeah, yeah, yeah. But it seems like since that day, yeah, we have sorely changed. Whoa. Eh, eh. Whoa, oh, 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 oh. Whoa, oh, 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 oh.
And now, live from beautiful Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, you're watching My Fellow Americans with your host,
Yes!
Spike Cohen.
Yes! Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Keep clapping. Clap for the birthday miracle. How would we know that you wanted the birthday miracle if you didn't keep clapping? Welcome to My Fellow Americans. I am literally Spike Cohen. What an amazing episode we have. My first episode as a 38-year-old man. And of course, as we know, in the Jewish tradition, 38 is when you become, I think, middle-aged. I think that's when I think officially you're middle-aged at 38. So that's a very powerful time for us in the Jewish tradition. This is a Muddied Waters Media production. Check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Anchor, Twitter, Periscope, iTunes, Google Play, Float, flote.app/Muddy Waters Media. Check us out on Twitch. Check us out everywhere that the internet exists. Check us out. Be sure to like us and follow us. And if there's stars, whatever the maximum number of stars, 5 stars, 3 stars, 10 stars, find the maximum number of stars and press that. And then hit the bell. If you're on YouTube, be able to hit that bell if applicable. That way you're not going to miss anything. Be sure to share this video right now. The last thing I want for you and your closest loved ones is for you to miss out on a roughly hour-long libertarian podcast on a Wednesday evening. Give the gift of Spike Cohen today. Kids love it. This episode, of course, is brought to you by the Libertarian Party Dad Bod Calendar, featuring some of the sexiest libertarian men to ever be both sexy and libertarian at the same time. And it's also brought to you by my phone that I have not put on silent, apparently. And now it is. And so you can get a Libertarian Dad Bod Calendar today. Great social distancing tool. If you want people to stay at least 6 feet away from you, carry this bad boy around. $12, including shipping. Or if you want it signed by me, $30, including shipping. 100% of the proceeds go towards helping the Jorgensen Cohen campaign. LibertarianDadBod.com. This episode is also brought to you by the Libertarian Party Waffle House Caucus, the fastest growing caucus in the Libertarian Party. And no, I'm not joking about that. This is the fastest growing caucus. So if you'd like to become a part of it, be sure to go to Facebook and look for search for Libertarian Party Waffle House Caucus. Really, if you just put Libertarian Waffle, this is going to come up first. We'd love to have you there. And this episode is also brought to you by Black Coffee, spelled BLVCK, because why not? Nothing matters anymore. This coffee is fantastic. It's cold brewed, organic, cold brew coffee. And if you go to Black Brews, BLVCKBREWS.com, you can get yours today. And be sure to use checkout code MW, that's M for muddied and W for waters, for free shipping. And this episode is also brought to you by one of the most talented video producers out there and his podcast, The System Is Down.
Hello there, humble podcast listener. Thank you for allowing me to interrupt
My Fellow Americans podcast.
to inform you about my own podcast, The System Is Down. The System Is Down is a place where we are reviving the dying art of conversation by civilly talking about all the uncomfortable, taboo, and politically incorrect topics like conspiracies, politics, and religion. With amazing guests like Juanita Broderick, Tom McDonald, David Thibodeau, Kelly Jones, Greg Carlwood, Martin Jacques, Vermin Supreme, literally Spike Cohen, along with flat earthers, pastors, witches, moon landing deniers, this lady who claims to be an alien cult leader porn star, this guy who says he was a literal vampire, and much, much more. There's a little something for everyone to be offended by. So if you're easily offended, then f*** off. The show isn't for you. But to the rest of you fine folks, just make a mental note, and when this show's over, go find The System Is Down podcast on any of the platforms or by going to tsidpod.com and join me in changing the world one uncomfortable conversation at a time. Back to you,
Spike Cohen.
Hey, thanks, Dan. And and this episode, of course, is brought to you by the Jorgensen Cohen campaign. Joe Jorgensen and I are running to make America free again, to set this world free, and to bring the troops home from the wars and the war on drugs and police brutality and the harms and abuses that are happening to us daily at the hands of the Republicans and Democrats, and to introduce common sense libertarian solutions that are the solutions to these problems. So, yeah, this episode, like I mentioned earlier, we got also brought to you by personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law. If you are personally injured in any way that could afford you financial compensation, be sure to go to Chris Reynolds. Oh, in Florida, go to chrisreynoldslaw.com or just look for this smiling face. He may have already found you. If you end up in the hospital, there he is waiting for you to help represent you in your personal injury. chrisreynoldslaw.com. The intro and outro music to this and every episode of My Fellow Americans comes from the amazing and talented Mr. Joe Davi. That's Jodavi. Check him out on Facebook, SoundCloud. Go to his Bandcamp at jodavimusic.bandcamp.com. Buy his entire discography. It's like $25. You're absolutely going to love it. I'd like to thank Kroger for this delicious, purified drinking water. There it is. That I drink on many episodes of My Fellow Americans. Not all of them. Bulavanaka. Shout out to Tehran Turks' mom and him, as always. Folks, what a great episode we have. Like I said, it was my birthday. I'm 38 now. I'm now arguably old. I think we could say I'm old now. But we have a great episode for you. Because to celebrate my birthday, I'm doing a call-in special, because those are always fun and the audience really likes them. But first, a little bit of an update. First of all, as part of my birthday, we have the 38 for Spike campaign, and I will be telling you about that right now.
And now, an important message from the next Vice President of the United States of America, Spike Cohen.
Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a great weekend. I am having a fantastic weekend because this weekend is my birthday. I am turning 38 years old. And I know what you're thinking, Spike, you look every bit of 38 years old. That doesn't surprise me. Well, thank you. You're probably also wondering what I'd like for my birthday. Well, that's where you come in. I am hoping for my birthday to have everyone who watches this make a $38 donation to the Jorgensen Cohen campaign as part of the 38 for Spike campaign. I just made that name up right now. That's what we're calling it. I don't care. That's what we're calling it. 38 for Spike. So if you go to 38forspike.com and donate $38 or whatever amount you want to help the Jorgensen Cohen campaign, I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Joe Jorgensen is running a campaign to set America free. And with your help, that's exactly what you're going to do. Your donation allows us to fight for ballot access, to engage in tours around the country, to do viral video marketing, and everything else in between that we need to be able to spread the message of liberty in an engaging and dynamic and empathetic way. So again, go to 38forspike.com and give what you can. I greatly appreciate it, and happy birthday to me. Thank you again for everything that you do. And don't forget, you are the power. What do y'all think of that shirt? Did y'all peep the purple shirt I had on? I like that shirt. My wife picked that shirt out for me, and it went perfectly with the logo, and I love that shirt. That was a birthday shirt. So happy birthday to me. If you'd like to help, be sure to go to 38forspike.com. One more day left to the 38 for Spike fundraising campaign, so be sure to give to that. We had an amazing ad come out for Joe Jorgensen a couple days ago from the amazing and talented Mr. Dan Smolt. Absolute banger, just groundbreaking stuff. I'm going to go ahead and show this, and then we'll start doing the call-ins. But I love this. And you're going to be getting a lot more of this. If you like these ads that we've been putting out, just you wait and see, because we're getting more and more of these. I'll play this one now. More coming. So if you like these kind of videos, just you wait and see. You're going to absolutely love it. Here we go. These are groundbreaking. These ads that Dan's putting out, best in the game. Dan Smolt, best in the game. I can't say anything but the best about him. I also have some fantastic news. Caitlin Cloven is now my social media manager, and I could not be more happy. She is fantastic, one of the best in the game when it comes to social media for any party, especially within the Libertarian Party. And she will now be my social media manager. I could not be more over the moon about it. What a great birthday gift to me from the campaign for me to be able to have Caitlin Cloven and the team on for Team Spike social media. I am so happy about it. So happy birthday to me, like I said before. So as a birthday gift from me to you, and really it's a gift from you to me because I like your calls, we are going to be opening the lines for your phone calls. Now, a little bit of a caveat here. I don't, the system we use is not, I'm not able to hold people in queue or anything like that. So if your call comes in and it goes through to voicemail, just try to call in a few minutes later because I'm only able to take one call at a time. And when another one comes in, I can either hang up on the call that I'm already on, or I can hang up on you so that you can call back again. So if you call and it goes to voicemail, just be sure to call back in a few minutes. Or if you want to just leave it as a message, you can just send a text message to the number and I will read those off as well. And I'll also try to do some of these comments that are coming in. We got quite a few coming in as well. So without further ado, here, boom, where's the number? Here's the phone number, 813-644-2722. And I would love to hear from you. And so with any questions you have about me or the campaign or my birthday, I mean, I don't know why you have a question about my birthday, but if you have a question about my birthday, be sure to ask me about it. Really anything. You can ask me anything you want to. And I will try my best to answer it. So I will go through some of these comments and see while we're waiting to get some calls and see if... there we go. 702 area code. Thank you for calling. Who am I speaking with? 702 area code. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi. Thanks for calling in. Who am I speaking with?
Hi, my name's Caleb.
Caleb, thanks for calling. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing amazingly. How can I help you?
I was wondering if maybe you could answer a question that a bunch of my fellow libertarian friends have gotten into some debate about recently. And there's a debate going on whether or not driving drunk would be a crime under, a libertarian society. Some people argue that it is a victimless crime if for some reason you're able to drive your vehicle under the influence and not hurt somebody. Other people say it's inherently an act of aggression. And I'm curious where you stand on it.
Thank you. That's actually a great question. Now, first of all, in terms of this campaign, Joe, that's not a federal issue. So I'm really talking more about libertarian philosophy here than anything related to the campaign, because this wouldn't really be a federal issue. But it is an interesting question that we have, about whether drunk driving is or is not, an act of aggression. I tend to believe that it is a potential act of aggression, because if you're that impaired to drive, then your risk of harming someone else goes up quite a bit. And now I will say this: I think some of these states, their alcohol limits are so low at this point. I think there's some that it's like 0.06, where if you had a drink hours ago, and it's you're not even feeling it anymore, you could still end up being, end up getting a DUI. So it's more about revenue collection than safety at this point. Surprise, surprise. But in terms of just the general question, if you're truly too impaired to be driving and you're out there driving, then yeah, that's that. I would argue that is. I would argue that is an act of aggression, and that whether that road were privately owned or a state or city or federal road where the police would be stopping you for that, I think that you don't have much case to say that you aren't potentially harming people out there. So that would be my answer to that question. So I hope that answered your question.
Couldn't agree more, Spike. You're doing great things. Really love what the campaign's doing, and hope to see more out of you guys in the next few weeks.
Thanks, man. That means a lot to me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. Okay, so 321 area code. Thanks for calling. Who is this?
This is James M. Ray.
Hey, James. How are you doing? Hey, can you do me a favor and mute the show so I'm not talking behind you?
Yeah, I'm so honored to be talking to you guys.
Oh, man, I'm so glad you called in. How can I help you?
Well, I just wanted to say that I really support Spike. I'm the admin of the Spike for Florida group, or whatever the heck it is. And I don't know whether we're going to have the convention here in Florida or not. And I almost don't even care. I want whatever is best for Spike and Joe. And I just want whatever's best for the LP. And I'm a huge fan of Spike, and I want him to come to my bench and do my show.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that. When we come to whenever we get to Florida, we'll be doing the treehouse bench thing there.
Yes.
Well, I look forward to it, man, and I appreciate you calling in.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
If there's anything I can do, I want to do it for you.
That means a lot, man. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. 605 area code. Thanks for calling in. Who am I speaking with?
Hi, this is Tom.
Hey,
first,
Tom. How are you doing?
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
I'm doing great.
That's great. Thank you for the birthday wishes.
Secondly, I want to say, sorry, I keep speaking for you.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. It's okay.
Secondly, I wanted to say thank you for joining the group. Escort Joe Jorgensen to the debate stage. They can't stop us all.
They can't stop us all.
Glad to have you in our group.
Yeah, man. Thank you for inviting me. They cannot stop us all. If we physically
they can't
put if this, what is it, 6,800 people on there now?
I think so. Yeah.
It's only
been 3 days.
In 3 days. If the 6,800 and exponentially growing people all physically, escorted Joe Jorgensen onto the debate stage, I don't believe that any force could actually stop us. I think that's a foregone conclusion at that point. So I appreciate you calling in. Did you have any questions for me?
Yeah, I wanted to know how you do you deal with any criticism about your age, running for vice president and all?
That's a good question. So criticism, not so much. More so the question, like at the age of 38, do you think you're ready to lead if it came to it? And my answer is yes. I've been in leadership and communication for over 20 years now. I started a web design company when I was 17, grew it into a very successful company largely on my own, and then decided to pivot into libertarian messaging, where I've continued to do leadership on that front as well. So it's certainly not the same experience that many people that are elected to the office get, but we've seen what that leads to. The good news is I don't have any experience in robbing people or sending people off to needless wars or militarizing the police or helping sign into law bad laws that infringe upon the rights of the people and make people's lives harder. No experience with that. I have experience in leadership that grew a company that provided tremendous value to the people who used its services, and I believe that that's a much better model for who we should have as our citizen servants in government. So criticism, I'm sure it's out there, but more so I've gotten mostly just questions about with my age. But I've also been in positions of leadership for over half my life at this point.
Okay, that's awesome. I mean, I have no doubt. I have full faith in you.
Thank you, man. That means a lot to me. I hope I answered your question.
For sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Have a great night. This is the fun part of the show because I literally just keep taking calls. It's like a birthday wish come true. 740 area code. Thank you for calling in. Who am I speaking with?
You're speaking with Chrissy.
Oh my gosh. Chrissy Wickers. Wait. Are we talking the same Chrissy? Chrissy who?
How many Chrissys are there, Spike?
I'm just asking. How are you doing?
Am I talking to Spike Cohen?
No, it's a different Spike. How are you doing?
Oh, nothing. Just called the girl chat. Actually,
boys.
I do have a question for you, Spike.
Okay.
When are you going to join the Chris and Spikey show with Chrissy and Spike?
With Spike, the Chris and Spikey show with Spike and Chrissy?
Yes.
Okay, well, listen, like I said, I'm going to have to get back to you on the scheduling because between not knowing if I'm going to be in Orlando or here next week, and also just general, the crazy schedule I have in front of me. But no, we're definitely going to get you booked. We were definitely going to do the Chris and Spikey show with Spike and Chrissy at least a couple times. And I'll also help you find some other insane co-hosts that you can have too. So it can be the Chris and many other people show with many other people and Chrissy. But no, we'll definitely be doing some shows. We can talk about boys.
We can talk about boys. Yes, all the cute boys in the Libertarian Party.
That'll be a short conversation. No, it'll be a short conversation because I don't have much to say about boys. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I do. We'll definitely be doing something soon. I look forward to it.
Yay! Okay, Spike, you're my hero.
You're even more my hero.
Yay! All right, love you, Spikey.
All right, I love you too. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
All right, bye. I'm very sorry to whomever I missed. Here's the text message. Hi, Spike. Hope you had a great birthday. Purple is my favorite color. Your wife has great taste. I'm looking forward to having a VP who is hilarious and technically savvy. I love how personable you are and your sense of humor. I'm so happy I found the Libertarian Party and this movement. I have hope for the first time in a long time, and I can't wait to watch this progress. Don't just let your memes be dreams. Thank you so much for leaving the message. 603 area code. Thank you for calling. Who am I speaking with?
Hi, Spike. This is Richard Manzo. How are you doing?
Oh my gosh, these are all my friends calling. Hey man, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm just doing great, man. Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate it. How are you doing?
Yeah, you look absolutely great. Who are you wearing?
Me? I'm wearing a shirt my wife got me. So just moving forward in general, if you like what I'm wearing, you can almost certainly assume that it's something my wife got for me because I don't really shop. So I don't know who I'm wearing other than my wife gave it to me and said, wear this. And I am. So I appreciate the compliment, and it just confirms I made the right decision marrying my wife.
No, yeah, you don't look a day over 37. I wanted to call and ask you when you're going to come out here to New England. I mean, we're all just dying to get you up here. Hopefully we can do something like regional, and we can all meet you and take selfies with you. I mean, we're all fans up here and all that. And, the whole ballot access situation here, the government's not letting us run for office, of course. And we're hoping that you can lead an army of badgers to take over the state capitals up here.
An army of badgers for the ballot access badgers.
Right, exactly.
Perfect. The
yeah,
ballot access
basically.
badgers. Yeah, no, so that's a great question, and thank you. And the short answer is we are working on that, getting Joe and I on as many of the, as many of the states as possible between now and Election Day. I think originally we wanted to do a 50-state tour, but the impact of COVID-19 and the pandemic obviously is restricting that somewhat. But the short answer is as soon as we possibly can. Also, this is the time of year I like going up to New England. When I go up there, as you know, when I go up there when it's cold, I get very sick, because I'm not used to that kind of cold. So I would love to go up to New England during the summer when it's nice, and so very, very soon. So short answer is stay tuned. It'll be very soon, and I appreciate your call.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I just called because I wanted to talk to you, and I like for my reunions to be very public. So thank you.
I like to say, hey, everyone, look at me. I'm friends with the person I'm talking with. Well, good. Well, thank you, Richard. I appreciate you calling, man. I love you.
All right. Love you too. Bye.
All right, man. Bye. 321 area code. I know you have called in a few times. There it is. 321 area code. I was just talking about you. Who am I speaking with?
Hi, this is Brian Fleming.
I'm sorry, who? I'm sorry, what is your name?
Brian Fleming.
Brian, thank you so much for calling. How can I help you?
Hey, Spike. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad you called in.
I'm new to libertarianism. I got out of the military, retired a couple of years or last year, and sort of been picking up since 2016. Mm-hmm. As I'm researching and stuff like that, my question is there's a lot of subjects that it seems like it would be more of a gradual change into changing some of the stuff of the government, mm-hmm. As far as taxes and so on and so forth. And other things that you could change on day one, as Joe's talking about. What are the type of programs that would be a gradual change, and which ones would be immediate?
That's an excellent question. So I think one perfect example of a very gradual change would be, for example, Social Security. We know Social Security is a system that was set up to make broken promises that are eventually going to be broken. It is essentially a Ponzi scheme. And I don't say that as hyperbole. If any of us were to create a investment plan that was written verbatim based on the Social Security plan and tried to sell that as a sellable product to the public, we would be arrested for racketeering and Ponzi scheming because of the structure. It is set up as a pyramid scheme. Now, with that said, we can't simply end Social Security. Even if we had the ability to do so, which we don't, that would take congressional involvement and it's mandatory spending. There would have to be all these changes to the law to be able to do that. It would cause immeasurable suffering to simply eliminate Social Security. And yet, if we let it continue to keep going the way it is, we're eventually going to have a situation where everyone loses their Social Security. And so Joe's plan is actually based largely on, from what I could tell, the Cato Institute's 6.2% plan, which is basically that the people that are on Social Security, their Social Security is protected. They do not have to worry about losing what they have. Any people that already have any amount of money into Social Security will be protected. Moving forward, anyone at any point of their involvement in Social Security while they're continuing to get payroll and continuing to pay self-employment tax, which is what I did when I was doing my web design company, instead of giving that money to that 6.2% to Social Security, they could instead invest it in their own personal investment accounts to invest as they wish. And where usually there's a matching 6.2% that would go with that 6.2% from of the payroll tax from the employer would go into Social Security to keep that solvent. And your 6.2% would be in a personal account, which, as we know, is going to have statistically a much greater gain, as much as 10 times greater gain than it would have, which compounded over time would be an even exponentially greater gain than the roughly 0.5% to 1% gain that Social Security gets over the time that money is put into that. So it is a gradual change. And if people want to keep paying into Social Security and getting that lesser amount, they can choose to do that as well. And the beauty of this plan is that it protects the people that want to be in Social Security. It allows the people who do not want to be in Social Security from having to be in it. So it divorces them from having to be in it. And over time, through attrition, as more and more people realize it's way better for me to just invest my own money, then over time, that program will eventually be able, first of all, it will immediately become solvent. And then second of all, it will over time be able to eventually, hopefully, be folded completely. And at the very least, for as long as it exists, it will be a voluntary program in that you can either choose to pay into Social Security or pay into your own account. So that is a perfect example of a very, very gradual transition system. A more immediate one would be, for example, ending the wars. Because Congress, through the authorization of use of military force, has basically abdicated their responsibility where they're supposed to be declaring and declaring wars and then declaring peace. They basically just give the president the authority to keep wars going as long as they want to. The silver lining to that is that once Joe is in office, once she's elected, then she will be able to simply declare that those wars are over and end them and bring the troops home and allow the healing to begin and allow end the endless stream of caskets coming back draped with flags and the many more people coming back with all sorts of PTSD and traumatic brain injury and other injuries and chronic issues and things related to the trauma of fighting a war. Ending all of that so that the healing can begin both here and over there as well. So that would be a more immediate one. So I hope that kind of gives you an idea of the more incremental approach on some things versus the more immediate approach.
Yeah, can I ask one follow-up question?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
So my follow-up is I've deployed 8 times, so I know about ending the wars and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I can see Afghanistan for definitely right off the top stopping and pulling out, which is going to be a 6-month to 1-year process anyhow.
Yeah, it's not, and when I say immediate, obviously they don't come home next week.
Right.
There's a whole yeah,
correct. Yeah. But my question would be is, where, ending a war and then moving people, for instance, out of Saudi Arabia, there's some bases that we have, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and places like that. Are those also the bases that she's talking about as far as bringing them home, and also in NATO and PACAF, Pacific Command and stuff like that? So how far reaching does it actually go where some of that may be beneficial for foreign relations and so on and so forth?
Right. So Joe's plan, and some of that will have to be phased because some of those things are based on treaties and congressional approval and authority and things like that. But her overall plan is bring all of the troops home where they belong and make America into what she likes to call one giant Switzerland, armed and neutral. Right. And what that means is a return to what the founders wanted, an end to these entangling alliances, an end to this sort of endless war, both hot and cold war, where we are basically using you and the rest of the people who've signed up to protect this country as chess pieces in sort of a cynical game of chess that is largely only benefiting military contractors and foreign dictators. You mentioned Saudi Arabia. The United States government right now is largely funding and arming a Saudi and Al-Qaeda-led genocide in Yemen, over 250,000 civilians dead, over 80,000 children dead. That makes people hate us. And that makes people, if you're over there, you said you deployed 8 times. You're over there, that puts a target on your back because of the actions of largely of cronies and politicians and bureaucrats that have not made us safer and certainly haven't made you safer over there and definitely haven't made the victims of those choices that live over there safer. So the plan is to return to what the U.S. was intended to be, what the founders intended, ending these entangling alliances, ending these things that lead to thousands of troops dead and tens or even hundreds of thousands more dealing with chronic issues, and the effect to the families of those who have died and who have come back with various issues. Another big thing with veterans is the Veterans Administration, as we know. While I have you on the line, I can go ahead and talk about this as well, if that's okay.
Sure.
The Veterans Administration costs more per patient than simply giving the veterans enough money to buy their own private health insurance. And I'm sure I don't have to tell you the difference between the quality of outcome in relying on the VA versus relying on private health insurance.
Yes.
And so, a way that we would benefit veterans and benefit the taxpayers as well is simply allowing you to go and get your own private health care and not having, having you reliant on basically a nationalized health system that has failed far too many veterans. I mean, you know better than I what the terrible outcomes that has led to in terms of, bad outcomes, ridiculously high veteran suicide rates and all of that thing. We want to end that. Part of letting the healing begin is dealing with the damage that's already been done. And a big part of that is ending the ridiculous nationalized healthcare system that is the VA and replacing it with allowing the soldiers, giving them what they should get in exchange for what they promised and what they gave, and protecting them and taking care of their healthcare needs moving forward in a much more, not necessarily free market, but in a freer market where they're able to make their own choices in healthcare. So I hope these have answered your questions.
Yes, they have. I appreciate it. And just a little information for you. Also, starting in January of 2021, they're raising the rates for TRICARE Prime for retirees. So now you have to pay an extra $25 a month. I know it doesn't seem like much, but we're already paying.
You're already paying
so much.
Yeah, you're already paying so much on largely substandard care that you were roped into because you swore an oath to defend the United States. And that what a terror. And meanwhile, the people who sent you over there that have made billions of dollars on the backs of that, they can get whatever care they want. They can get concierge care on their yachts, and we're going to end that. We're going to end that. You're going to get the care that you deserve because we're going to put the money in your pocket and put the power back in your hand where it belongs to get the care that you need.
Awesome, Spike. Hey, I appreciate your time. Good luck, and I'll keep spreading the good word.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Yes, sir. You too.
Thank you. Okay, 904 area code. I'm sorry. There's been a few. Or 940. Here we go. Yep, 240. That was the other one. 240 area code. Thank you for calling. Who am I speaking with?
Hello.
Hi. I'm sorry. I can't really hear you. Do you mind muting the show?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, who is this?
My name is Jorge.
Your name is what?
Jorge.
Oh, Jorge. Thank you for calling in. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
That's great. How can I help you?
So I wanted to ask a question. I'm pulling out of the Republican Party and becoming a libertarian. And so I'm doing my research and learning more about it. I'm really excited for his election.
Yeah, man.
So one person that I've followed through the last couple years is Ben Shapiro, who calls himself a libertarian. I would like for you to give your perspective on that. And then last night on one of his shows, someone asked him a question asking why what his thoughts are on the Libertarian Party. And he said they can't get their act together, and there's a part of the group that values drug use over small government. So I just wanted to hear your response to that.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Ben Shapiro is a conservative, and I know he at least occasionally calls himself a libertarian. I would be interested to hear his definition of libertarian. He has had some positions that I guess are liberty friendly, but when it comes to foreign policy, he's almost as big of a war hawk as John Bolton and some of the others out there. So I would really challenge the idea of Ben Shapiro being a libertarian. He may be a libertarian leaning among, I guess, war hawks or something, but I wouldn't classify him as a libertarian. I'm certain there are times that we agree on things. Regarding his take on, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay. Regarding his thoughts on the Libertarian Party, I'm not sure where his take is on we care more about legal drugs than smaller government. First of all, if the government's smaller and put back in its place where the founders intended, then drugs would be legal because they never wanted the government to tell you what you could or could not put in your body. So I'm having a hard time deciphering what he meant by that. I will say
there's a sect of the party that values drug use over small government.
Oh, drug use over small government. I'm not sure what to tell him. I mean, I don't know how many Libertarian Party members he knows, because even the ones I know that like to drink and occasionally do drugs. And by the way, I say this as someone who has been sober for 14 years. I have not used drugs in pretty much the entire time I've been a Libertarian. But even those who do occasionally, use drugs and alcohol, they're in the Libertarian Party because they want to take government down to size and take it down to task, and have a society that is more based on voluntary, peaceful interactions between consenting individuals who want to work together to solve the problems that often are imposed upon us by the Republicans and Democrats. I respectfully disagree with this take on the Libertarian Party. I guess I'll put it that way.
Sure. And can I ask one other question?
Sure, absolutely.
So if you and Joe Jorgensen were to win this election, how would that look at the Libertarian executive branch working with legislators that are not Libertarian, that are either Democrat or Republican?
These are great questions, man. So obviously, if we get elected, more than likely, we're going to have some Libertarians in Congress who get elected as well. I'm sure Justin Amash will get reelected. Brad Barron out in Kentucky will get elected. Kerry McKinnon will get elected. Justin O'Donnell will get elected, and others. So we'll have some people in Congress and Senate, but more than likely, at least in the Senate, we'll still be dealing with a Republican majority who will have a vested interest in trying to stop us as much as they can. Now, with that said, they kind of created a situation that they can't handle at this point. So because they have so abdicated their responsibility over the last several decades by creating one alphabet agency after the next and giving them nearly unlimited regulatory power, just putting more and more control in the hands of the executive branch and taking it out of their own hands so that they didn't have to take responsibility on tough votes and they could just instead pressure the regulators to make the regulations they wanted. Once Joe Jorgensen gets reelected, she can just undo all of that, or most of it. She can undo any of the harmful stuff, any of the harmful regulations that are out there without really having to consult Congress. And in fact, we just got that backed up, that she can even fire whomever she wants and not have to rehire him. There was just a Supreme Court decision regarding the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, where Trump wanted to fire the member of the chair of the CFPB. And Congress said, no, you can't do that. The rule says that, that you can only fire her for certain reasons. And the Supreme Court said, nope, he can fire for any reason. It's an executive branch position. He can fire and hire as he wishes, or fire and not hire anyone. So there will be a lot of that happening under a Jorgensen administration where a lot of people are going to get fired and not hired because they aren't needed, and the regulations fall well outside of the bounds of the limitation of government that was intended by the founders when they wrote the Constitution. And in doing that, people will see the immediate benefits of that, of having less restrictions on their lives and rights and allowing them to thrive more and do better. And on the strength of the benefit that comes from that, we will then be able to use that and the bully pulpit that we have in the White House to draw a very clear line in the sand. And on the one side of that line is Joe and I and our colleagues and allies in the Congress who are working to remove the boot from the neck of the people as they work to thrive and grow and innovate and be able to build a financial and social legacy for themselves and their children and their communities. And on the other side of that line are going to be the Republicans and the Democrats who are working to keep that boot on their necks for no other and allow continued endless and needless suffering for no other reason than to preserve their own power and wealth and influence. And I think that will be a very powerful carrot stick approach to get many of these flagging members of the dying parties to join us, if not in joining our party, at least joining us on certain legislation we want passed to be able to free the people even more. So I hope that answers your question.
Sure. Yeah, it does.
Cool, man. Well, I really greatly appreciate your call. And thank you again. Hey, by the way, welcome to the party. I'm so happy to hear every time we get more and more people joining the party. It always makes me so happy, Jorge. So thank you so much for calling, and thank you for joining. And I look forward to campaigning with you this year.
Yeah, I've already converted 5 or 6 people.
That's awesome, man. Thank you so much, man. That means a lot to me.
Great talking to the future vice president.
Thanks, man. That means a lot. I'll talk to you soon.
Later.
All right, bye. 801 area code. Who am I speaking with?
Hi, this is Devin.
Hi, Devin. How are you doing? Would you mind muting the show real quick? Behind you?
It's muted for you.
Perfect. And you said your name's Devin?
Yeah.
Devin, how are you doing tonight?
Good. I'm really actually excited to talk to you. I've been wanting to actually meet you in person.
Oh, well, nice. Well, I am excited to talk with you as well. How can I help you?
I just had a question. I've got friends who are libertarian, and I've been a voluntarist for probably about 4 years. Okay. And I have some friends who are anarchists, voluntarists, whatever you want to call them, libertarians.
Yeah. Okay.
They don't want to vote because they don't believe that it's effective or it's even worth voting, or that voting is pointless. Mm-hmm. Do you have like something that you would say to them that says, like, gives them a reason to vote or a reason to, see the point in voting and how it could help the Libertarian Party advance?
Absolutely, and I appreciate your call and asking, Devin. So this is a great thing. So we have a lot of libertarians that are so libertarian that they don't even want to vote anymore. And they don't just want a voluntary society. They don't even want to participate in voting. And the two big reasons they give are voting is a waste of time. It's not going to do anything. And then the second reason that they give is that voting is basically an act of proxy violence, that when you are voting, you are saying, this is my will and I want to impose it upon others against their will, which, I mean, the democratic system, that's how it works. When people are voting, whichever side wins, their will gets imposed on everyone else. So the anarchist position, or the position of many anarchists and voluntarists on voting, is that voting is violence. Now, the position of myself and many other voluntarists within the Libertarian Party is that voting is violence. And the way we vote is defensive violence. We are voting in self-defense. We are voting for policies to end the harm that's happening and to remove the barriers that are making it harder for people to thrive, and removing the bad, centrally planned, arbitrarily defined, and crony-friendly policies that are leading to a widening gap between those who have and those who have not, because the system has been set up for the wealthy to impose their will, the wealthy and powerful to impose their will upon us. And when I say wealthy and powerful, I don't mean, the guy that's got a nice house and 3 cars. I'm talking about the small handful of people that own 80 or 90% of the country's wealth. They impose themselves on us through their crony relationships with the pandering, craven politicians in the Republican and Democrat parties that they get elected into office. And so we are against that. And our votes are against that. It is an act of self-defense. And so, if we call it violence, that is defensive violence. Going back to your original question, which was about the idea that it's a waste of time. Well, let's say it is. You wasted 20 minutes. You showed up, you voted, you said what you wanted, you said that you voted for someone who, wants to reduce the harm and move us more towards a more voluntary-based society. Worst case scenario is you lost whatever time you spent standing in line and then voting. Best case scenario is that we win. And a scenario in between that is that we do better than we ever did before, which helps to change the cultural conversation away from ever-growing government and towards a smaller and reducing government, something closer to voluntarism, something closer to a free market society. That's the best case scenario. Or that's one of the better case scenarios. But the worst case scenario, you spent some time, you went and voted, it didn't work, and that's it. So that's my answer to that, and I say that as as a voluntarist, as someone who believes in a free market society, that it is an act of defensive violence, and if it works, what an amazing thing we can accomplish. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it did answer my question. Thank you.
Cool, man. Have a great night.
Hey, you too. Nice talking to you.
You too. Bye. Okay. 904 area code. Thanks for calling in. Who am I speaking with?
Hi, my name's Liz.
You broke up. What's your name?
Lizzie.
I'm sorry. I'm having so much. Your name is what again? I apologize.
You're fine. My name's Lizzie.
Lizzie, thank you so much for calling. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. So I do have a question right off the bat. I've been trying to ask it for a few of your shows now.
Okay.
So I know there's a few different views or stances as far as taxes go in the Libertarian Party.
Mhm.
If you ask outside of the campaign, I just wonder more so what your stance and Joe's stance is on taxes, and then kind of your view on the tax industry and the lobbyists that kind of keep, the taxes being so hard on the American people as it is. And like kind of like what you guys would do to change that, perhaps.
So I like Joe's answer on this. She wants to get rid of the IRS and she wants to stop the income tax. And someone asked her, well, if we don't have the income tax, would you be okay with the fair tax? And she said, I'm fine with any new tax plan as long as the rate on it is 0%. There is no such thing as a fair tax. The only fair thing is not to rob people. Our take is the Libertarian Party's most staunch take on taxation, that all taxation is theft and that the services we need from government can be provided by voluntary service fees for services. That's why Joe is against having an IRS. That's why she's against having these tariffs, all of these things that the government imposes, which not only don't help us, but they actually sap from our wealth. And they also impose a system on people where they're told that the services they need are going to be provided to them whether they like it or not, and they're going to have to pay for it whether they like it or not. And if they don't go along with it, their lives are ruined. And like you said, an entire industry is built around it. You have an industry built around the cronyism of knowing that instead of having to provide value to the market in order to become wealthy, they can just get to the federal trough and get their preferred politicians in place in both parties, the Republican and Democrat parties, and they can just sit there at the trough and wait for the money to roll in and take it as they wish, because they create their legislation and their preferred regulation, and they hand it off to the politicians, and they say, go make it the law and go make it the new regulation, and we're going to keep putting millions of dollars in your campaign war chest. And the politicians go, sounds good to me, and they sign it off, and it becomes a law, or they hand it off to the president, and they make it a regulation, and the politicians stay in place. The big businesses spent millions of dollars to get hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars in taxpayer money back, and it's a racket. It is a racket. It is trickle up theft, and all taxation is also inherently regressive. If you were to tax the wealthy, if you were to have just a 100% tax on the wealth, or a 90% tax on the wealth of the wealthiest, and everyone else paid a 0% tax rate, what would end up happening is they would simply add that tax to the price of the goods and services that they sell and rent to all of us, and then we'd be paying it. When we bought that, we'd be paying that tax. And so if you are a net consumer, which the vast majority of us are, you're the one paying all the taxes. And that's why that and the Federal Reserve are why we see an ever-growing gap between the wealthy and the poor, because the wealthy get all that money for whatever they want, and then they pay the taxes on it, which they just cipher down to us and have us pay for it. So we're getting stuck with the bill without even really realizing it. And we're also, we're not really getting the service. They're getting the service. Even those of us on a social safety net, we get if we get an EBT or food stamp card, what do we do with it? We go to Walmart. They get that money back. We get a rental voucher. So what do we go? What do? We go to an apartment. The apartment companies get their money back. It's a shell game. It doesn't help us. It harms us, and we're being robbed to pay for it. So I hope that answered your question.
No, I definitely agree. I especially think, the smaller threshold you are in that income bracket, the more likely you are to even get audited. And I think that also is like a huge theft, for the American people also. So that definitely answered my question. Thank you. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye. And 416 area code. I'm sorry if I missed you. If you want to try calling back, I believe 416 is Canada, so we might be getting some international calls here. Let's see while we're waiting for some more calls coming in. All taxation is paid by the middle class. Essentially, yeah, Tim. I mean, all taxation is paid by the people who are the consumers, and that's largely the various blue collar classes. Let's see here. 321 area code. Thanks for calling. Who is this?
This is James M. Ray again. I just wanted to ask you another question. You've been great tonight, Spike. You're the best. Here's what I wanted to say. Okay. What do you want us to do? I already abstained from voting tonight, But what do you want us to do as far as an Orlando convention? Do you want us to have one in person? Do you want us to not have one in person? I don't even care. I just want to help you and Joe.
Okay. And I appreciate that. I'm going to give a very politician answer that you may not like. Because of the position I'm in within the Libertarian Party, I don't feel comfortable saying what I would like to happen, because I don't want to be seen as swaying the LNC members or the delegates in one direction or another. I will say that I trust the LNC members to make a choice. This is just a straight up politician answer, man. I trust the delegates.
That's how I feel, and I love you too, man. I love you. I love you so much.
Well, I love you too, man. But I trust the members to make a choice that balances the public safety and health concerns of the members and their families with the need to get this done and the need of many to want to have something in person. I trust them to make that balance, to make that choice. I will say this: if I am there, if they vote for in person, I will be in Orlando. If they vote for vote to cancel it and to be to have it online, I will be online. So whatever they choose, I will be there.
Okay, I just want you to come to Venice, where I may not have a microphone the size of my entire face, but I still have a great tree, and I just want you and Joe to do my show. And so that's my main goal in life.
Well, that's my goal as well. I love you too, and I'm bringing my mic and hanging it from your tree. So I don't know what to tell you.
Oh man, that's going to be great.
It'll be perfect. It'll be great. So, but thank you again for calling. I really appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye. 940 area code. Thank you for calling. Who am I speaking with?
Wow, Zach. Sorry, I'll mute this quick.
I'm sorry. I can't hear you. What was that?
Hey, this is Zach calling in.
Hey, how are you doing? How can I help you?
A bad echo on your end.
On my end?
Yeah.
Do you have my show muted?
I do.
Okay, and it's still echoing?
I think we're good.
Good.
Well, okay. So I wanted to ask about how you feel the totally free market would regulate itself against bad actors, companies that would willingly deceive their patrons in order to turn a buck or cause harm.
That's an excellent question. And I will use one of the I guess, stickiest examples in order to answer your question. Because part of a free market also involves the ability to litigate, to hold bad actors responsible in either arbitration or some kind of court setup. So, for example, the environment. We have seen the government's answer to the environment. They created the EPA and similar state agencies that basically take their cues from the EPA. What does the EPA do? They create regulations that largely make it impossible for small and medium-sized businesses that are in certain sectors of the economy to be able to operate. So they either have to go out of business or, fold under and work under a larger company, but they can't do it themselves. And so it cuts off the competition for the big businesses whose lobbyists wrote those regulations up. And now what happens when those big businesses leak and have spills and pollute the air and have meltdowns and everything else, when they do almost immeasurable harm to the tune of sometimes trillions of dollars, they get a few $1 million fine from the government, which is like, it's not even a slap on the wrist. They get like an eyelash basically barely touching against the edge of their wrist. It's nothing. They barely even feel it, especially compared to all the damage they just did. What does the EPA do next? And the federal government protects them, indemnifies them against lawsuits. We've been talking about qualified immunity, about abusive police officers not being held accountable, abusive government officials and politicians not being held accountable. This is qualified immunity for people that do oil spills and pipeline leaks and all of the stuff that causes also and chemical spills into our lakes and rivers that we get our water from, that we drink and bathe in. And they get little tiny fines, and then they get protected against being sued by us. And the justification is, well, if they got sued, they'd go out of business. Good. They shouldn't have done that. But what's the next thing that happens? The cost of that cleanup We have to pay for it. They externalize the cost of that cleanup for those businesses onto us, the people who were just victimized by those businesses. And again, they go, well, if we don't have the taxpayer pay for it, they could go out of business. Good. If they knew that they could be sued, and if they knew that they could be forced to pay for the cleanup, but at the very least, if they knew they could be sued to pay for that cleanup, they wouldn't do it. They'd regulate themselves far better than the government ever would. Or if there's not a way to profitably do that type of polluting business, they wouldn't do it. They'd find something else to do. They'd find some other innovative way to do the same thing in a way that doesn't pollute as much, which is the whole point of the market. It's the whole point of environmental protection. It is the point of moving ahead and innovating in a way where we pollute less and less and less, and innovate and provide and thrive more and more and more. And that is hampered by a government that underwrites and externalizes and protects the companies who do that damage. They don't need to innovate. They don't even need to take basic safety precautions because they know they'll just get a little fine. And then the big cost, the litigation and the cost of cleanup, someone else will take care of that. They're victims. The people they just leaked into their lakes and rivers, they'll pay for it. In a free market system, they could be sued. They could be run out of town. They could be told, because they just acted in aggression, they could be told to give up everything they have. And that deterrence would stop them from polluting in the first place. It would make them put far greater regulations on themselves than the government ever would. And because the smaller businesses would never be able to even do that much damage, they could also self-regulate, but in a way that would cost much less because the relative damage they can do is less, which means they could also stay in business and be deterred from doing even smaller environmental damage. This works for everything. If you remove government's protection of cronies and bad actors and allow them to be held accountable by the market, not just in lawsuits, but in reviews from people that do business with them and everything else. If you allow the market to hold bad actors accountable, including with lawsuits, instead of externalizing their cost to the taxpayer and protecting them from any real repercussions from what they did, the market will regulate itself. Not because they're angels and beautiful people. It's because they don't want to lose everything. It's a basic self-protection. So that is how the free market would work, as opposed to what the government imposes upon us. It would actually work. The foxes would no longer be protecting the henhouse. So I hope that answers your question.
Definitely does. I've got another one if you got time for it.
Sure.
I'm trying to kind of balance out my enthusiasm for the Libertarian Party. Brand new follower, supporter.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking for some good, deep criticism, something to sort of temper my understanding here. And I'm not really finding anything. What do you think is the biggest weakness of libertarian philosophy, or perhaps the biggest room for improvement?
I don't, I'm a doctrinaire libertarian, so it's hard for me to say that we have a weakness. I think we have things that are the hardest to message because of a combination of how emotionally wrought they are, and also the fact that government and major media has quite a head start in messaging to people. And I'd say one example of that is healthcare. So it is hard I get so many people, because we've brought in a lot of people to the Libertarian Party who used to be on, more the Democrat progressive left. And they've realized that they're never going to get the criminal justice reform and the end of the wars and the end of the drug wars that they want from the Democrats, who are every bit as much the architect of those things as the Republicans. But when they first come over, they go, yeah, but what about healthcare? Isn't healthcare a right? I'm worried about, a single emergency room visit destroying me financially and me losing absolutely everything. I'm worried about, a loved one with a chronic health condition, ending up not being able to get treatment because they can't afford it. And, I'm hearing all these other countries have free healthcare, and it seems like if we're so wealthy, we should be able to do that too. What do libertarians think about that? And unfortunately, we fall for the bait. We go, well, healthcare is not a right. You should read about positive and negative rights. You'd never say such a thing. That's not what they're saying. What they're saying is they're worried about healthcare. They're worried about the cost. They're scared of the possibility of having an accident or a medical emergency that ends up ruining their life for years or possibly forever, that they can never get out from behind that debt because of the ridiculous nature of our healthcare system. The way I message healthcare to them is I say, yeah, our healthcare system's terrible. It costs a fortune. We're spending 3 times as much as the world average per patient. Our government alone is spending more money per taxpayer per patient than the entire, or more money per patient than all but a small handful of like 3 or 4 other countries. So we have a government-run healthcare system, which is absolutely terrible in terms of how much it costs. We're not getting 3 times the care that the average other country is getting, but we're paying 3 times as much. And then I show them in doing so, and you can do the same when you're talking with it, and anyone listening can do the same when you're talking to people about libertarian approaches to healthcare. The first thing you have to do, and this is not just on healthcare, in general, I do this every show. The effective way, and I'm sorry, my chair is not cooperating with me and it's giving me a hard time. The way that you communicate libertarian ideas, really communicate anything new to someone, you don't start by giving them a really great argument. We tend to think as libertarians that we just have to craft the perfect argument, the most logically sound and perfectly tuned, pitch perfect argument. And we simply present that argument, and the people looking at it go, my God, this argument is so logical that I have been completely overtaken by it. I'm now a libertarian. Well, that rarely works. It really only works with someone who's wired to systemize things and look at things as, greater concepts, as opposed to how most people look at things, which is they look at the immediate thing in front of them and say, I don't like how this is going. Maybe we should do it this way. The way that you reach people is first you have to listen to them. And what you do when you're listening to them, you're doing 2 things there. One thing for them and one thing for you. For them, you are showing them that you care. You are giving them that opportunity to release their concerns and their fears and their hopes and their dreams and everything else. And what you're doing for your side is you're identifying their problem. You are hearing what it is they care about. So if they come to you with healthcare, you say, that's a great question. What do you think about healthcare? And they're like, well, let me tell you what I think about healthcare. They say the whole thing, and you take your cues. In sales, we call it pain points, but that's not really a good way to use it in politics. You're listening to their concerns. You're hearing their cues as to what they're worried about. Don't worry about them saying stuff like healthcare is a right, or I want gun safety, or, government should be doing this. That's filler. What they are worried about is their concerns. Listen to the actual concern. I'm scared of the cost of healthcare. I'm scared I'm going to lose everything. I'm scared my loved ones are going to lose everything. Our healthcare system is way too expensive. That is the concern. That is what we agree with. And after they've said those things, the next step is to demonstrate and reflect back to them that you heard what they had to say. You're absolutely right. Healthcare is terrible. I'm worried about healthcare too. I don't want to, end up in a bad situation like that. When I talk to people, I relate to them that I have MS and that, my MS has been stable because I'm able to get a good treatment. But there are unfortunately many other people who are of lesser means who haven't been able to get the same treatment because of the ridiculously high cost of treatments related to MS and other chronic health disorders. And so I address that with them, and you can do the same. Now what you've done is you have begun the process of them seeing that you actually care, that you were listening, and that you relate to them. Then you can take them on the journey. So for example, with healthcare, you can start talking about the history of every time government has gotten involved in healthcare. The cost has gone up. You can talk about how the pharmaceutical companies squat on patent protections from governments and jack up the prices of existing medications, drugs that have been around longer than most of us have even been alive, like insulin, epinephrine. Jack them up 100-fold, 1,000-fold, and no one can do anything about it because the government is protecting their patent and not letting you go to another country where it's pennies on the dollar and bring it back here, even though it's legal there and legal here, but illegal for you to get it and bring it back here, to protect those cronies and their rent seeking in the form of charging more and more for essentially what should be generic drugs. You talk about this stuff. You show that you actually have some knowledge about this subject because now they actually care about what you think. There's a phrase, no one cares what you know until they know that you care. And I wish I could claim ownership of that, but I actually just heard it a few days ago and it's perfect. Now you can take them on the journey. You can show them that you are knowledgeable on this subject, that your arguments are logical and make sense, and that libertarian solutions, because once you've told them what the problems are, then you can present the libertarian solutions. How to reduce the cost of healthcare by 75, 85, maybe even 90% by just removing those barriers and burdens that have been put in place by Medicare and Medicaid red tape and mandatory health insurance red tape and patent protections and certificate of need laws, all of that stuff. And then you can talk about removing that stuff and how healthcare would work in a market set free. But you can't do that until you get their heart and their mind. You have to win their hearts and minds. But so healthcare is a really, really tough one. But again, if you win their hearts and minds, you can take them on the longest. You can take them on the greatest journey on the most fraught subject. But you got to show you care first. That's why we're trying to change the way that libertarians talk to people. This movement is a movement. This movement is a movement of empathy and kindness and dynamic messaging and reflecting back to people that we do care. Libertarianism, and I'm sorry, I'm going off on a rant from your question, so I apologize. Libertarianism is the most empathetic message in the political world. You own yourself and your life. You own your body. You own your labor, and you own the product of your labor, your property, and we will stand alongside you and fight against anyone who tries to take those things from you so that you can thrive and associate with others and grow things that could have never been possible from a cynical, pandering, craven government who is trying to harm you at every step for no other reason than to preserve the power and the influence of themselves and their cronies. What an empathetic message. So let's share it that way. Let's share it with the same empathy with which we believe it. Why not? It's hard to win an argument. It's very easy to win a conversation because you don't just have to win. Everyone can win in that conversation. So I hope that answered your question.
Absolutely did. Thank you so much, Spike, for
Thank
taking
you,
my call. I really appreciate your intellect and your attitude and your empathy here, and I'm looking forward to a great campaign from you and Joe this fall.
I'm looking forward to it too, man. Have a great night.
You too.
Thank you. So 636 area code. I know you're trying, and I'm so sorry. Keep it up. I'm going to stay up a little bit more so that we can do this, so we can get you in. 636 area code, and then also, I guess, 580 area code. And then we had a 416, but I think they gave up. But, yeah. So I will stay on a little bit longer and see what's going on here. 913, well, there's one. 913 area code. Thanks for calling in. Who am I speaking with? Uh-oh. So I just took one call, but then I think they hung up, and then I hung up on the other call, but they had already hung up on me. Okay. Here's a call. Here's a question from 714 area code in the messages. Hey, Spike, happy belated birthday. Thank you. I was curious, do you plan to have a strong presence on TikTok? And if so, what is the plan? Gen Z sees the strings that control the system. They are pretty fired up about their first participating election. What are your thoughts on reaching them? Yes, absolutely. We are starting on TikTok. We're going to have a very, very strong presence on TikTok. I just made my first few TikTok videos, and we're also doing, obviously, on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, I believe on Discord as well. Yeah, Discord as well. We're going to be all over the place. And that's growing right now. Like I said, Caitlin Cloven is now my social media manager. She and the team are going to be helping a lot with us reaching that. It's like you said, Gen Z, I'm a millennial, but I'm like an old millennial. So I'm like almost a Generation Xer. Gen Z has been completely left behind by this system. And they're also one of the most highly educated generations in recent memory. So they acutely are aware of how far left behind they are by this system. They're a great group of people. I have been able to have some absolutely deep conversations with people who are like 19, and they get it. So yes, absolutely, we'll be doing that. 636 area code, thanks for calling in. Who am I speaking with?
Hi, Spike. This is Missouri.
Hi, I'm sorry, it broke up when you said your name. What is your name again?
Hi, Spike. I'm Michael. I'm in Missouri.
Hey, Michael, how are you doing?
I have a question about voting rights. So in Missouri, kind of pre-COVID-19, we were in a situation in Missouri where there's no mail voting, no early voting, no voting absentee without an excuse. Yet if you wanted to write somebody in, that person would have to register with the state before you could write somebody in.
Right.
There's a lot of barriers being put up by, particularly the state that I live in, which is dominated by one of the two major parties
Mm-hmm.
in order to allow people to exercise their right to vote. And so I was wondering, your views on voting rights and removing as many of those barriers as we can to, allow people to vote for the candidate of their choice.
Thank you very much. That means a lot to me, and I appreciate your question. So, like you said, the barriers are higher and getting higher every day. Now, if it makes you feel any better, in other states besides Missouri, sometimes it's the other political party that's setting up those barriers. That probably didn't make you feel any better. It really just to say it doesn't matter whether it's Republicans or Democrats. They're all doing the same thing. The one of the many things that Republicans and Democrats agree on is that they need to shut out literally everybody else. And it shows the ever tightening restrictions on getting ballot access, the ability not allowing people to to write in votes, like you said, ridiculous registration requirements, and so forth that are making it harder and harder for people to vote, and more importantly, for them to vote for who they want. Really just make it really hard for them to vote, and then give them two terrible options that just happen to be the same two parties who have run everything for over 160 years now, and have created all the problems that we're facing. What a coincidence that those are our only real choices. And so, I would argue that these things are violations of the First Amendment to some extent, because they're violating your ability to exercise your opinion in the form of voting. But with that said, the most important thing here is that we continue to affect the cultural conversation, because there is no way to stop an idea whose time has come. And I believe libertarianism, our time has come, especially in the wake of people on both the left and right protesting overreaching government and everything else. I believe that that we have a very special time right now. But the bottom line is that the more people know about us, the more they will demand to have us as the option to vote for, because it's the only option they'll want. So it's a full court press. We fight for ballot access. We fight for the ability for people to be able to vote for us. We fight for people to be able to vote, to make the ability to vote easier. Things like you said, mail-in voting. We fight for the ability of convicted felons to vote, because who better to decide things on how government should run than the people who are often the greatest victims of the abuses of government. So we do these things, and it helps with the voting, but we also are moving forward on presenting people our ideas, because if we get enough people signed up for our ideas and wanting to move that forward as the way to move forward for America, and realizing that Joe Jorgensen and Spike Cohen and the rest of the libertarians running up and down the ballot are the only real viable option moving forward, there's no way they're going to be able to stop us. We'll have to be the ones that get voted for. And so it's just a full court press on every single subject. So I hope that answered your question.
It did, and I want to say I agree that it's the libertarians' time has come. It'll be an honor to vote for you, and Joe cast my first vote for a libertarian, and I wish you the best in the campaign.
That means a lot, man. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
It's always an honor when people say how happy they are to vote for us. 416 area code. Who am I speaking with?
You're speaking with Tasha.
Tasha? Wait a second. Tasha. Hi, Tasha. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. How can I help you?
I was calling just to tell you that I wanted to say that you are magnificently brilliant, titillatingly alluring, and you're transformatively revolutionizing the party. And I'm proud of you.
I'm proud of myself. Titillatingly alluring, huh? This is my wife, by the way.
I said that already.
Oh, did you say? I didn't hear when you said that. So
yeah.
So you find me. Here's my takeaway. You find me alluring, and you want to be transformed by me. Is that correct?
No, I said you're transforming the party.
Oh, okay, but not you.
Yeah.
Okay,
no.
well, that's fair.
No,
that's fair.
Definitely not.
Well, thank you.
I think I transform you more than you transform me.
That's correct. Well, thank you so much for your call. Did you have a question for me?
No, that was it.
Okay. Well, I also find you titillating and alluring as well.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I love you.
All right. All right. Love you. Bye.
All right. Love you too. Bye. That was nice. Call from my wife. 863 area code. Thanks for calling. Who am I speaking with?
You're speaking with John Montesquieu from Florida.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
That's great. How can I help you?
All right, I had one question for you, Spike, and that's related to the convention.
Okay.
And what are your thoughts on the convention? It's supposed to be happening next week. Should we cancel or should we not cancel?
This is an excellent question, and it was actually asked. James Ray called and asked, and unfortunately, because of the position I'm in, I have to give a really politician-y answer, so I apologize in advance. Because of the position I'm in, I don't feel that it's prudent for me to say I think we should do this or that, because I don't want it to be seen as pressure on the LNC or the delegates or anyone else to adopt something just because of the position I'm in. I think that there is a very healthy and robust debate happening right now, and I trust the principles involved. I trust the LNC members and the delegates and the people who are involved in this debate to come up with the best answer that balances, public health concerns and the health concerns of the members and their families and loved ones, with our needs to have a convention and to move forward on policy. And so I really, like I said, I definitely have an opinion. But I just, because of my position, if I hadn't been nominated, I would be giving my opinion. Because of my position, I don't feel comfortable doing so. What I will say is this: if they decide to stay with the in-person convention, I will be there. In fact, I'll be hosting a panel on gun rights there. And if we end up doing it online, I will be at that. So I will respect the will and the wishes of the LNC as directed by their region members and delegates. And I trust them to make the right choice as they determine it to be. So, like I said, I'm not used to giving those types of politician-y answers, but it's a brave new world.
I think it's a great non-answer, and I'll leave it to other people.
I'm sorry?
I said that's a great non-answer. I think it's very fair and very politician-y, but I'll let you get to other callers.
I appreciate that. Thank you for noticing my politician-y response to the answer. Thank you, man. Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye. All right, cool. I think we're going to take, what is it? Oh, it's 9:30. Wow. Time flies when you're taking many, many, many phone calls. So I'm going to take, I think, one more call. And, oh, no. Okay, I'm going to take one more call, and then we'll call it a night. 219 area code. Thank you so much for calling. Who am I speaking with?
Hi, my name's Kristen.
Hi, Kristen. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. That means a lot. How can I help you?
I am a VA employee.
Okay.
So as you can imagine, this is kind of a scary situation for me to be in, where I'm looking at all this change and I'm loving what I see, but also I'm a government employee looking at a new situation where government is being lessened. So I'm worried about that part, and also I'm worried about the elimination of VA. I think it's a great idea to change that, to make it a more marketable thing, but I'm worried about the vets who don't have the mental capacity to decision make and to do like that shopping thing. They've always been institutionalized to use the VA.
Right.
What would the party think about that?
That is an excellent question, and I'm glad that you brought it up. I will defer on specifics to Joe, but I would imagine that when we are looking at transitioning to a system of putting the money back in the pockets of the vets to be able to make their own healthcare choices. So there's two aspects of your question. One, you as someone who works for the VA, what happens to you? And two, what happens to those soldiers who, because of various situations, don't have the capacity to make those choices? And those are both excellent questions. So I'll start with you. How does this affect you? Your services are still going to be needed, right? Like we are not ending demand for healthcare. We're shifting it into a market that the veterans need, that are going to get better service And by the way, I want to say, this is not an indictment of you. I'm certain, as a VA employee, are facing all sorts of times that you feel very frustrated because you are having to deal with the bureaucracy of government. Correct me if I'm wrong. That makes it more difficult for you to do your job.
That is true sometimes.
Okay. And so what we are proposing, what Joe is proposing, is that bureaucracy and red tape that comes from, the bad central planning of a nationalized healthcare system for veterans also makes it harder for you, because it makes it harder for you to do your job, and it robs money, for lack of a better word, it robs money from both you as the provider and the veterans as the consumer, and the taxpayers as the people, paying and underwriting it. So there is, to that extent, there's money and you as a taxpayer as well. And so there is that's being returned, but also the fact that your services will be needed. And I think any real good transition plan is going to be that, transitioning people who are doing the right things and helping veterans within the VA and trying their best, with bureaucracy and red tape often making their job harder, them being transitioned into a more a more robust free market form of that same form of healthcare. So you're still doing your job. You're still probably providing services to veterans, or maybe providing to all sorts of people, but also to veterans. And you'll be doing the same job. You'll just be doing it in a more free market setting. The second part of your question is the people that don't have the capacity. We have a similar thing right now. I mean, there's people that are adults who are, who have insurance, and are in the private market, who for various reasons don't have the capacity, either because of mental health issues or traumatic brain injury, or all sorts of issues. Outside in the civilian world, it could be because of a birth defect or developmental disorder, or accident they were in, or who knows what. But with veterans, it would be the same thing. When they are not in a position of having the capacity to make those choices, there would be some kind of guardian involved. And there would have to be someone right now anyway, because a veteran that doesn't have the capacity to make decisions on healthcare already effectively needs someone who's helping them when it comes to just their other financial and important life decisions. And so that would be the case with this as well. And like I said, I would defer to Joe when it comes to actual specific policy of how a transition plan would look like. When Joe sees the fact that the VA costs more per patient than just giving them the money to get healthcare that, according to both anecdotal and survey evidence, shows that they would get better outcomes. She can't see how that would continue, moving forward, and why we wouldn't switch to something that benefits both the veterans and the providers better than a largely, red tape and bureaucracy laden system. Like I said, I would defer to her on how it would actually look, but I believe any real good transition is going to make sure that the people that are providing will continue providing, but just in a free market, and that the people who need the help making those types of decisions will have the same help that they would need now anyway, just because they need that kind of help because of that incapacitation. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. Removing those hurdles sounds great, but I'm also wondering, a little mini question.
Okay.
Would you and Joe be willing to hear from VA employees some suggestions about what they think about keeping this kind of care together, like a specialized veteran care?
I don't see why not. I mean, I know there are like you mean like the VA Centers for Excellence and things like that?
Yeah, just some, because we've got a lot of know-how in the area, and you seem to be a very open and, hey, let me see what the people think about this before making decisions. Would that be something you'd consider hearing?
I have no reason not to. Absolutely. I'd love to hear anything. Anyone who wants to talk to us about policy and everything else, I'd be happy to hear from them.
So cool. Well, thanks for your time, Spike.
Thank you. Have a great night. I really appreciate it.
You too. Take care.
You too. Cool. Well, this was really great. So we had hour and a half of calls with, I don't even know how many calls that was, but I really, really enjoyed it. Nima Sapasi, I think I'm saying your name right. Spike is our hero because he's a libertarian who actually has a woman. It's not that bad with libertarians. Anyway, I just want to say thank you all again for tuning in. It means so much that you guys are all tuning in and asking questions. I always love being able to interact with y'all. That's why I love doing the call in. I'm going to take the number down because I already stopped it. So I don't know if you heard, but my wife finds me titillating, so I'm going to go find out more about that. But I really appreciate everyone tuning in. Today is Wednesday. I have countless appearances that I'm going to be doing over the next few days. And next week, be sure to tune in. It's a little bit up in the air because we don't know if we're having a convention. If we are having a convention, then we will probably still be doing episodes of my show in the Muddy Waters of Freedom. It'll just be more built around the convention, so the timing may be different. If not, if we end up just being here, then tune in next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern for the Muddy Waters of Freedom, where Matt Wright and I parse through the week's events like the beautiful little sweet summer boys we are. And then tune in tomorrow, or tune in next Wednesday, right here, a week from today, 8 p.m. Eastern, for My Fellow Americans. Another amazing episode of My Fellow Americans. And I thank you for everything that you do. Again, if you're looking to give me a birthday gift, 38forspike.com. I would appreciate anything that you could give to the campaign. I would consider it a personal favor for my birthday. And I do thank you again. I love all of you, and I'm so happy to have had a chance to answer so many questions. Yes, my wife called as a reminder to get off the show. So yeah, thank you again for tuning in, and I will see you very soon. And remember, you are the power. God bless.
They say about an eye for an eye in a time when the blind lead the blind. Who am I to deny I would cry when a loved one dies? I recognize that body outside, but the holes in the body that was alive. Now confined to a chalk outline. Find out how, but you never know why. It ain't even make it to the news at 9. It ain't even make it to the news at 9. That's my sister, mother, father, brother, son. That's one of mine. All these years I close my eyes, open up to only find I'm in line. There's a pointless murder happening all the time. Either lose your life or mine. Caught up in them versus I. That ain't how it started, nah. How were we supposed to survive? There's a war going on outside. Who would want to raise a child? Whom the tomb is flashing by. Now you have to say goodbye when you watch them on the news at 5. Don't tell me how, tell me why.